This week, my brother and I had like 40 minutes to jump into my home office here. So please pardon the lack of production value. The audio on the editing tools that we have here gets a little garbly at times, and the intention is that this will get better and better. I'm just trying to be comfortable with not being perfect and just getting things out there and trusting that people will see the intention and be okay with that. But I think that the conversation that my brother and I have, and what we want to continue to have and bring in other folks from the industry and just from our personal and professional lives, is around this concept of building in public. So there's this theme or a trend that we had kind of caught on to of entrepreneurs really opening, pulling back the curtain on their process of building their business. We've spent 2 years evolving the business from mobile order only to an entire operating system that's built on these principles of shared benefit and community and reciprocity and interconnectedness. And it's getting really exciting, like more exciting than we thought that it would. Because, when we started that evolution, we did it from our gut. Like we just felt that it was the right way to build a business. And now we're seeing this data that's showing, holy cow, like every single shop, like without exception, has grown on our platform. Like it is exceeding our expectations. And now we have the analytics and the data that shows where that growth is coming from. We're just aligning with the truths around behavior and putting these pieces together in a way that brings everything into alignment to unlock the value and the potential that's already there. So now what we're trying to learn is how do we express this in a way that just like resonates and is immediately evident for owners. The paradigms around how we built Joe they're completely different than the technology like Toaster Square, which we typically need to replace in order to unlock all the benefits for these coffee shops. And so this is a candid sit down where Brendan and I were constantly workshopping, evolving our decks, trying conversations, talking with the team, and really talk about how can we get through to the folks that maybe aren't the early adopters, maybe they're a little more risk averse. How do we help them out too? And we want to hear back from the community, coffee shops, friends, family, everybody on what you think about this approach and this idea of building in public and really opening the door or pulling back the curtain on how these decisions are made and what it's like behind the scenes of trying to evolve a venture-backed startup like ours. So thank you so much for listening. If you dig this, please start sharing this out. All of our growth comes from referrals. It comes from our partners, coffee shop owners, baristas, and customers referring us to their favorite neighborhood coffee shops and getting the word out on our behalf. So in this moment right now, we're trying to learn how to articulate this in a way that is just obvious. What do you think our biggest barrier is for getting traction in that way or getting the aha?
Man, these poor owners, man, they're exhausted and overwhelmed. They haven't had any reprieve or a moment to catch their breath since COVID happened. Now it's, wages are increasing, everything that they sell now is increasing in costs. It must feel like death by 1,000 cuts.
It's almost like hope fatigue. How many times can you restart engine and hope something's gonna work?
I literally just had an owner tell me, we have switched our point of sale 3 times in the past 3 years. Every company sells me the moon and then falls flat. So I think we're also battling that whole perception, and it's like, I'm just trying to survive right now.
Well, but one thing that I feel like we wrestle with is we put up slides that go like, look, here's how much you can grow. This is on data of millions of customers. We have hundreds of shops that have run. This isn't like 2 or 3 shops, right? It's like we have 800 shops running on our technology. Yeah. Been doing it since, we got funding in 2019. We've been working on this since like 2017, 2016. It's been a long time. We have lots of data. We'll do over $100 million this year in processing, millions of customers in our database, to prove this out. The sales conversations they're having with Toast and Square are like, look at our tools and features and look at this handheld hardware. Isn't that pretty? When they get in conversations with us, it's almost like they're primed to have that conversation. I'm going to gravitate towards what I'm familiar with, which is like, keep this safe because that feels safe and I have to deal with a lot of challenge and fear and uncertainty and ambiguity. So give me what feels safe. But then when you're just focusing like that, you're in the constriction, when the reality is just like, oh, whole different way. It's like the Ford Model T came out and you're like asking for a faster horse. Yeah. And so I wonder if that is what we're feeling the resistance on. Where we're like, why do you want to talk about this thing that's inconsequential to your business? Yeah. When the opportunity cost here is huge. And we have all this evidence, we have all this stuff. If Toast and Square aren't saying, here's how much your business is going to grow, here's how much more profitable we're going to make your business, that should be a red flag.
They kind of just serve the purpose of, we give you what you need to be able to function, not thrive and grow.
The cost of doing business, we give you something that makes it feel a little nicer versus the thing that takes money and has customer loyalty should be growing your business.
I think it's because nobody has ever existed doing what we're doing. The journey of a owner is, I want to create a coffee shop. I want it to be this name. I want to have these offerings. The last thing they think about is, I need to be able to accept payments. They're looking at it as the one function this serves is to collect payments. And awesome, they have a marketplace where I can add these third-party apps to do loyalty or whatnot. And gosh, I didn't realize it's going to cost me $87 or $85 a month for that and $200 for that per month.
Think about even how you framed that. The payments piece is what grows you. This is where growth comes from.
Well, back to what you were saying earlier, the payments piece has changed.
Yeah.
You are in the business of serving customers. Before COVID, I remember with mobile ordering, it drove us crazy as baristas. Probably even more so for owners when you have a line or a drive-through and you see your loyal customers pull up or walk in and you can't serve them and accept their money fast enough so that they leave because they're busy. And that's even exacerbated now because people think they have to have a single point of sale to funnel all of their transactions. When you have customers that you have won their business, you have won their loyalty, you have built these connections with them that want to pay you, but you're just not accepting that.
But that leads them. I think that people see that, but then they think like, okay, Starbucks has an app, let me get an app. Starbucks, we can do kiosks, let me do a kiosk. Yeah. This is the thing where I think that line of thinking is what traps owners.
Yeah, totally. I think the point is you need to have a solution that fits your customer needs, not your needs and what you're thinking of. I think what you're alluding to is I'm not ever going to download 7 different apps for the 7 different coffee shops I go to between where I live, work, and visit my mom when I'm working in Seattle or different parts. I'm just not going to download 7 apps and earn rewards at 1/7 of the pace. I will just pay in person if it's convenient for me to stop in, and that's it. But if I have the ability to order anywhere and me as the customer paying you money is getting the benefit. Most people don't realize that if you're running a generic standard loyalty system that costs 10% with like a buy 10 get one free, you are just eating away your margins. If it doesn't create those incremental purchases.
And it takes more than just loyalty like we were talking about. It takes it's about bringing all these pieces in alignment so that it flows. Otherwise, it's like if it feels herky-jerky and difficult and like you're constantly putting out fires, it's because there is misalignment in your business. It doesn't need to feel that way. When your system does what it's supposed to do, when your work, it's like a coffee workflow. If there's one piece of that workflow that feels off, you feel it. And technology is the one place they're feeling it now, but they've just accepted it as a cost of doing business and just a reality
as the only solution,
as the only thing that exists. And then the reality is once you shift into these things where it's like coffee specific flows, it's the best customer experience that is designed and the product takes care of bringing them back more often, and the community is a big part of that formula. It's like these are the pieces that are necessary to be in flow.
I really think that the paradigm shift here is your customer is at the heart of every interaction. This is, like Steve Jobs had that quote. What made Apple so successful is he didn't have a group of engineers building what they think is cool. They took it from what the customer lens was and built it all around that. And yeah, coffee, it's like this, coffee depends on community, this customer base, and this customer base wants to have ways to support these businesses. Our technology is what allows it to happen.
At the end of the day, that's the thing. It's like, if you were to design an ordering experience from the customer point of view that creates the most value for them, that's what Joe is.
So let's talk about community a little bit more, because I was watching this documentary last night about Bob Putnam, who got really famous back in the 90s for research that he had, which is showing how community, or what he defined as social capital, like he was measuring participation in bowling leagues. There is this interesting stat where bowling alleys had the same number of people coming through, or roughly the same, but their business model is contingent on sale of beer and food and things like that. And when they dug into it, participation in bowling leagues were going really far down. And he made this statement around, this is a reflection of like our social capital, our communities, or our affinity towards community starting to wither. It's interesting because that's about the same time when Starbucks as a business model took off and coffee is the third place in bringing community. And there's more research on it where it went beyond just bowling leagues, and it was talking about participation in PTA. First, it went back decades and decades. And some archives of like, how often are people saying that they're going to barbecues or doing picnics? All of them are down 80% since decades ago. And that was really a catalyst back in the 90s. So he was meeting with the president, politicians were having conversations on this idea of community. Like, our social fabric is disintegrating because people are siloed in homes. So when we say community, I feel like it's turned into this cliche, like, oh, coffee is community. There's no real meaning. And I feel like it's something people don't really identify with, because I don't think we solved community in the 90s. 30 years later, people are still out of touch.
Well, I think that technology and social media in particular has created this false sense of community. I have my 20-year reunion this year, and I don't think anybody's going to go because we keep up with everybody now on social media. So what's the point of, making a big effort to go and see people that you're already in touch with?
Right.
But you're in touch in a digital way, not seeing a real community, deep, meaningful connection anymore. COVID, I don't think was any additional benefit to community. And I personally feel like post-COVID, I had this thing, maybe you relate, or people out there, of like, how did I do it before? I forgot how I had social interactions with friends, not because everybody kind of spread out. And then once things turned back on, there was never like that moment of coming back together and reintegrating.
Community, I feel like we should define community, because honestly, for years we've been talking about community with Joe until we went into Ebony and Ivory the other day. I think my mental model of community just meant sharing physical space with people. When you picture community, you see people together physically. But this definition that they put on their big board, which I thought was so beautiful, and it's just like a Webster's dictionary definition of it, that I was like, oh, that's what I've been missing for the last 30 years. This is a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. So you mentioned social media in particular giving us a false sense of community, because there's a vacuum around this idea of common attitudes, interests, and goals. And so for us, it really resonates like, okay, it really reaffirmed like, oh, we really are building community with coffee shops, because there's an alignment of interests and goals. Our business model requires that you have an attitude around reciprocity and collaboration and interconnection to run on the platform, because we bring them all together. And our mission, our vision to bring together all these systems from farm to customer in alignment for the shared benefit of everybody, build community in a real way.
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about it that way.
You're absolutely right.
Crazy. Yeah,
Well, it's just funny on the social media thing. They are algorithms, but they have been created by the world's smartest people that literally pull you into a box of knowing that community around those interests, and whatever you click on is whatever it feeds you. What we're building is the physical representation of it, where your experiences and the places you go are based off of your behavior. What I love about this definition is that it makes me think of the saying, we all have more in common than what separates us, And it's like when people get into a coffee shop, you might first get in there and have the familiar face and a friend who you realize goes to a similar gym or has a similar whatever. And like this community, these connections, as you do it more and more, you deepen and strengthen over time in really cool ways. But then it makes me wonder, how can we use some of the pros and benefits of what social media has done and these algorithms, but actually have it and bring people together face to face, shoulder to shoulder?
I think it's funny because this is like in real time clicking for me now. Because social media, it clicks, it creates gravity. That's why it's polarized people. In the absence of something that's built around common ground in the middle, and it's like social media, those algorithms, I think that there's this sentiment of like, it's inherently or intentionally trying to break everybody up. I think the reality is there's a documentary and it was the folks who were doing the technology, and they're like whistleblowing, being like, we created this thing. We didn't realize what this was doing. We thought we were trying to optimize for, Facebook goes public, you get short-term gains. We need to get dollars in advertising. So to do that, it's just algorithm, it's machine learning. When it doesn't know what the content is that it's putting in front of you, it's just getting signal and saying, so in the absence of community where people are defining themselves around wholesome things, when individualism is the identity, individualism is the opposite of connection.
I think when we talk about community, especially when it revolves around coffee, it makes me think about, as a barista, one of my favorite things about being a barista was the relationships that you create with your customers. And that's what you get excited to do every single day, is to come and see them and catch up with what's happening in their life. To this day, I still remember their favorite drinks, and I see them from time to time when I'm in West Richland, Washington. It's really fun to catch up still. These are relationships that last a lifetime. And then as we got into Joe, we've been talking to thousands of different coffee shops all over the United States. The number one common theme of why they get into it is community. They leave their corporate jobs with this desire and dream of connecting people and being that place where people can come together and create these lifelong connections.
This is where coffee plays such an important part in community building and our neighborhoods, is where naturally you share space with people. I feel like we should talk about the actual role that coffee shops have and what that looks like on the ground. What we're trying to do with Joe is the idea of like these independent businesses. This is an extension of the owner's identity themselves. Coffee shops, in a sense, are like a platform for self-expression. And people that resonate with that, they feel that it generates community in a way that corporate coffee can.
Yeah, there's commonalities, belief systems, interests,
right?
All sorts of stuff that's automatically felt and known.
So now to put scale to the potential here, more people pay with the Starbucks app, Apple Pay. Starbucks is the 10th largest bank in the world based on customer cash card balance, not how much is paid through it, how much is just sitting in there alone.
That's insane.
So it starts positioning this as independent coffee shops coming together to rally for the common good. Is it just about the dollars and cents of owners? This is actually a movement that needs to happen.
I mean, how beautiful is it that you could go to, there's 5 times as many independent coffee shops or community-based coffee shops as there are Starbucks across the U.S. To have that uniqueness and diversity of experience of different individuals from communities all over the states expressing in these unique ways their own flair around coffee, it's pretty darn incredible how the customer at the end of the day isn't just getting their same coffee every day from the same cookie cutter location. They're getting it from, these unique experiences and supporting others. I mean, it makes sense. The statistic we found on our research that up to 9 out of 10 customers ordering at Starbucks daily would rather order at a local community coffee shop if it's as convenient. We put the customer at the heart of every interaction. This means they get the same benefits that they would get at a mega chain, but at your independent coffee shop. They can earn points at your location and redeem them anywhere in the network.
So coffee shop owners, what's interesting is we were talking about this tension they run up to. Coffee shop owners, when we researched with them, I got into this business primarily to create community. So it's like they're artists. You're expressing. And then when challenge hits, it makes you immediately question all those things. You go into fear. You start making decisions out of fear. Instead of defining yourself and your intentions based on what you want to create, you're in a state of constriction. What do I need to cut? What I need to get rid of? What could go wrong? What could go wrong? You start training yourself around what could go wrong. You're then broken fundamentally in what you were driven towards was around creation and community and bringing people together and expressing yourself. Yeah. The conditioning is lacking. And then for us with the technology piece, if you're using tools that are not in alignment with your intentions of what you're trying to create, and coffee is community, there are these truths that exist. We just look at the numbers on what the truth is and how we create a shared benefit for everybody. How do we create systems that bring all these pieces in alignment to capture the reality that already exists there?
Yeah. Love that. As a business owner or manager, you're often tasked with the hardest things you got to solve for. When the baristas can't solve it, who do they call it? Instantly, it's you. So then it's kind of what you're speaking to about the conditioning. We get into a set where we are thrown into the middle of the forest and trying to say, can you see the forest through the trees? And it's like, well, we're up to our eyeballs in the weeds trying to fix every little thing. So our mindset and what our energy is going to is all the issues, the problems. It's, oh, this problem customer had this issue. We want to do is solve that real quick. But what we forget to do is know that there's always going to be opportunities to improve and reduce the negative experiences. But when we focus on the positive experiences that we're creating for our customers and the people that love coming back and knowing that 20% of your customers are likely driving, or, the 80-20 rule. Oftentimes it's your loyal 20% that's driving 80% of your revenue every year, or these 20% of items that customers love and are their favorites are likely driving 80% of your revenue. When we get in the condition of having to, be in fear and problem solving, we forget to see all the massive opportunities we should be focusing on. It reminds me of Marcus Lemonis, the prophet, where he strips out all the things that don't matter. And I think, I see this oftentimes with coffee shops. We're looking for a silver bullet. What's the next thing I can do that is going to make me different or unique? Really, all you got to do is make really good coffee, have really good relationships, and create opportunities. What coffee shops do so great is creating more opportunities for shared connections. The vendors they put on the wall are local artists and businesses that might be jewelry, like at Kimball, that, and they do jewelry making in there, or they have nighttime bands. So then you're finding people that like the same style of music. There's all these opportunities that they bring the community together around shared interests, beliefs, attitudes.
As an owner or an entrepreneur, or in our position, the nature of the job is you get tasked with the things that nobody else can figure out. But by the time it's on the owner's lap, it's like, oh my gosh, like the hardest freaking thing that nobody else could solve. And then you get tired. You're like, I had this dream, I have this art, and these are just impediments along the way. I think that's an important part of community, is conversations like these, where if they hear, like, we talk to hundreds of coffee shop owners, we know that everybody's dealing with all these things. But if you're not talking with other coffee shop owners and really creating community around that, I think it can be lost that this is part of the art. And if you relate to it that way, art is in part defined by the medium. And the coffee shop is an expression of art, 100% in how an independent coffee shop runs. Part of that medium is the 5 cranky customers that don't like your new loyalty program, not the 5,000 that like using it and ordering more.
It doesn't really matter if you're a coffee owner or a startup founder, every decision we make is out of either fear or love. It's really easy to turn on any screen in front of you and be met with things that are really scary. Then to go to work and have those impediments, you're instantly in this survival mindset. So then you hit with, oh, I got to make payroll, or we have these angry customers, and then you're just making decisions. It's really easy to start to look at things from a very narrow lens. I think that we're constantly talking with coffee shops about change. If you are making more, creating a better customer experience, it's okay to adjust and change. But again, they get so focused on the fear of change and things being different, it prevents them sometimes from making a decision. So let's rest in this for a second. So there is a truth that exists. This is what I think is wild to us right now. It can feel like a long time has passed when it hasn't. We've been evolving our technology so quickly. Think about it. It was just August when we rolled out the dynamic brand experience so that the Joe app transforms to a white label. Then we rolled out universal rewards so that your loyalty benefits can emulate what Starbucks gets, where it's convenient and rewarding everywhere. And we centralized all those budgets so that we can create more dynamic and more data-driven experiences so that independent coffee shops stay top of mind. That happened in mid-September. And then we just got our new hardware shipped in. We have 100 point-of-sale terminals. It came in a week ago. A week felt like forever ago. We're like, geez, when are these going to be in jar? Why are we moving fast? Kind of funny. And I feel like coffee shop owners the same thing. We introduced this new item to get our average ticket up. Why aren't we getting upsells on everything? And it's like, well, we just rolled out new workflow, and half of our baristas are still in training because we're constantly changing all that stuff. Giving yourself grace as an owner is so important, regardless of what line of work. But when you're talking about the idea of fear starts making decisions from a place of constraint. You think about operational constraint. What can I cut to be safe? What can I control? Yeah, what can I control right here? What's known? And so if I'm not making enough money, what can I cut so that I have enough? And you're just, that's your universe. Instead of like the world of creation is so much bigger. The thing that got you into coffee is so much bigger. It's this trust of, these things are going to work. And I feel like coffee shop owners in particular, because of the nature of the business, it's your livelihood. Yeah. Fear, like something starts to threaten that is boom, fight or flight. And it's the direct reflection of them. Exactly. It's a combination of like essential to your well-being and your ego, like on the table for everybody to say if they like it or not. People are like, no, like, oh, yeah. It's like, oh, why did you guys put the drive-through here? It's like, oh, like, geez, these are things they are pouring around it. So I think that's so unique that coffee shop owners have that. As a result, I feel like it forces you to grow so much. Yeah. I think it's important we talk a little bit about how we stay aligned with owners, because like the very way that we do pricing, very intentional. I think that there is a narrative, like a mythology around being a startup founder, venture-backed startups. But, remember when we were first thinking about doing startups, that The Social Network was out? We were watching movies on Zuckerberg and Hunter and all that. Yeah, dude, we could do this. We can go for it. That was the story that was being told about being a founder. For us, in reality, we're not computer science majors from Stanford. We're just like two dudes that were former baristas, you for 5 years, me for like a year, from a working class family who built lawn and garden storage sheds out of our backyard for most of our formative years. Yep. That one had the courage to express our thing was like, we really care. Like our superpower is that we really, really care. And you in particular have seen it firsthand in your experience as a barista. I think that I have taken from you, the way that you related to it was so much deeper than I could recognize. Coffee shop owners like you resonate in the sense our heart and soul for Joe comes from your experience, how you relate to business and your time at Indulgences and the role that coffee shops play in community and real connection. Our intentions as a business have always been, let's really be in our integrity in making decisions based on what's the best for coffee shop owners and baristas and the community. Yeah. And not just the easy thing, because it would have been a lot easier to charge subscriptions.
We would have been able to fundraise easier. We'd have been attracted to more investors. It would have been easier to articulate.
But I'm glad that we made those decisions, because I remember having conversations with the owner when I was a barista, Carrie, and the seasonality, the ups and downs, like post-Christmas, that gap between January to, she was trying to cut back hours. She would come in and have us put in what waste, so we could see in a bucket how much waste we were doing and calculating it. So we were thinking about it from an owner perspective. You can charge a subscription that's the same every single month when you're earning the same every month and you're having 20% increases and decreases. And I'm glad that at the end of the day, they'll understand the benefits, that we truly are aligned with your goals of growth. And we don't earn more or the same that as we would in your slow months, because that's just not right for business. And it's crazy that this is a known okay thing. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but ass backward.
I think the reality is we've been making decisions from a community standpoint. What creates the benefit for the community?
Yes.
So it's like, no, we're not going to do subscriptions. No, we're not going to do a white label, because it would have been, remember in our scariest moments, we were like, it would be so much easier to sell a white label app right now. Remember when we were almost to run out of money, investors would even say, and we were like, if we do that, shops will make way less, their customers will get less value. It does not align with the reality of how the customers, so the people that are paying, voting with their dollars, they're going to Starbucks because that is convenient, and you need that relevance to stay sticky in your brain and to actually think about it. So us doubling down on Marketplace was a community-driven decision. Seems a lot safer to an individual. Let me make sure I get mine, and then I'll think about community. But what we see in our numbers is it doesn't work that way. If you're doing community, everybody grows. Every single partner that has, from Cafe Ladro with 18 locations to Asensio, single location. We're looking at Urban Coffee.
Downpour.
Urban Coffee Lounge grew 40% in their first year. Diedrich, all their locations, almost 30%. Cafe Ladro has grown 30%. Asensio, who has doubled their...
That's crazy.
Our intention is not, we're the hero here. We're creating systems that bring into alignment the realities that exist, and everybody benefits. If you're thinking, I want to sell from a local vendor, you're bringing community into alignment. You recognize the value of doing. If you're running a Toaster Square, that is incongruent with your ethos of business, because that is just a cost of doing business to take people's money with zero reciprocity to the community. You're reciprocating by bringing local goods here and selling food items that are sourced locally, or art off the walls, or jewelry, leaving business cards. You are community, and the biggest part of your business where you actually take money gives nothing back.